I am resident of Colorado YouTube, Joel Sains. That is my buddy Gordon Dymowski. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Daniel Culver. We're here to review Stone Tape, which was selected by Gordon. So, Gordon, buddy, why'd you select this one?
Well, I selected it for a couple of reasons. One, it was written by Nigel Neal, who wrote the Quatermass series, and the Stone Tape is considered kind of I'd say it's considered a hallmark in British TV horror because it's actually the uh, we hear of the Stone Tape theory, which is the theory that old castles can receive psychic emanations from the walls to record. This is where that comes from. And I like the idea of the fact that it's kind of this weird mix of science fiction kind of and the supernatural where it's most um a lot of stories like this would lean towards the rational rather than the supernatural. This kind of goes, okay, there is a science thing, but it leans a little bit more in the supernatural. So I thought, why not give it a chance? I mean, the worst thing that happens is nobody else likes it, and I can walk away knowing that, hey, I did my best.
When did you first see this, Gordon?
I first saw it a couple of years ago, because it was not very, um, it was when the second and third Quatermass serials from the BBC were springing up on the Internet Archive, and somebody posted a dubiously legal copy of this onto onto YouTube. So I watched it and I liked it. It's intriguing. I think it's very typical of early 70s British television in general. It's very much closed sets, single cameras and kind of low grade guy in the control panel fiddling with knobs level special effects. And I also think it's kind of the kind of story that I think Dark Shadows in a year, if Dark Shadows had been on the air, I could see them doing something like this in 73,
Yeah.
74, because I think it lends itself to a little bit more gothic trappings.
I agree.
It
I think
can.
by the time Dark Shadows was in Malibu Nights, it would have definitely been.
Uh, a lot of somebody who did get heavy inspiration uh, from this is somebody who I also saw. The horror master himself, John Carpenter, actually loved this movie, and he has said this is where he got his inspiration for Prince of Darkness.
Hmm.
So it is a very interesting movie. First, I love what they do with the ghost effects and the argument, like it's for science or for the supernatural, because it's a great. I feel that's where this movie. It's a great balance between the two, um, and the set design is very stunning. I love what they do with the lighting. This is pre John Carpenter, and they're using lighting that Carpenter would use prior to him using it, which is really awesome to see. Patrick, when did you first see this?
I tonight.
What you
Yeah,
think?
this is the first time I saw it was tonight. And I'm a big fan of 5 million years Earth and so on. So I was looking forward to it, and it indeed delivered in the Quatermassian English science fiction meets horror meets folk horror story. Basically, this is like Quatermass in the Pit on the road.
Hmm.
In a way, I mean, I think there are a lot of similarities to it.
Like what, for example?
Well, like people digging in an old area and finding something that is supernaturally charged from another era, and it wreaks havoc with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea that psychic impressions. There's a line about how some people are more sensitive and that it's like this big recording medium, but except of going to your ears, it goes into your head, which is kind of a, Quatermass in the Pit. There's this level of,
Oh,
people are acting out because there are all these psychic emanations from from the buried spaceship.
Mhm.
Alan, when did you first see this movie?
Earlier today. If I had known that Jane Asher was in it, I would have watched it years ago.
Yeah, I did
What,
not realize she was in it until I saw it again today.
Yeah,
So,
now that gives us the Corman connection.
yeah.
what did you think of it, Alan?
I thought it was great. I mean, it's it's sort of one of the things that I noticed about it is the Peter Brock character played by Michael Bryan is such an arrogant ass. He's everything. I mean, he's everything bad that we think. And even in that 1972, he would have been considered everything bad that we think of today, because he was just kind of playing that. He'd be normal for a while, but then he'd have the abusive husband outburst, kind of thing going on. So I always thought this what happens in this is arrogance versus Cassandra versus supernatural inevitability, because this arrogant guy is doing stuff that he doesn't in a milieu that he doesn't understand. He just wants the benefit of it. He wants the power of it. He wants the prestige of discovery. He wants all of these things, and he continually does not listen to Jill, who's the Cassandra character. She's the one that's sensitive enough to understand something is really amiss here, because she senses things that, of course, the lummox does not sense, and until, of course, the end. So there's a morality play going on here, as well as all of the horror of the building power of this thing, and having people who don't understand it stumbling around in the middle of it.
I have a question. Michael, what, Brian's character, is it?
Yeah, Peter
Is-
Brock is the
yeah,
character.
Peter,
Yeah.
Peter Brock. Are they kind of like taking a dig at James Randi in a sense, or no?
Uh, I
who is James Grandy?
He was a
He means
magician.
James Randi.
Oh,
Randy.
James
He means the James
Randi.
Randi.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
sorry.
they were I think they were into discovering this thing for the prestige of it, and they were also
Okay.
into corporate pressure and all of this sort of things going on, because different things are
Yeah,
happening here.
yeah. They were looking to do a new recording thing, a new way to record things to compete with Japan. And what ended up happening was, they found this thing, and at one point in the film, he says, "Oh, great, we've got this. This will be our thing."
Right.
And it really backfires. So he's not trying to debunk it. He just sees it as, oh, okay, we can make money now.
Wants to harness it and manipulate it.
It's sort of got a little bit of a Michael Crichton quality in that sense. Something that is a little too advanced technologically, or too advanced, in terms of nature, that should have been left alone,
Yes.
being abused by capitalists, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, that's true.
The cultural significance of this, one of the first promulgate the hypothesis of residential haunting. The ghost may be recordings of past events made by psychic environment. Was T.C. Lethbridge in books such as Ghost and Ghoul, written in 1961. Since the broadcast of the play, this hypothesis has come to be known as the stone tape theory by parapsychologists, researchers. So this movie, in a sense, kind of lifted that off. Which is really cool. Whether you believe in ghosts or not. So that's my next question. Do you guys believe in ghosts?
I've never really experienced one, so I couldn't tell you.
I have no evidence. that where I can take a phenomenon and basically look at it and say, you know what? There is not one single thing that could possibly explain this except for the psychoelectric, conscious, purpose driven charge of a dead person.
Right.
Now, I have lots of theories. If ghosts exist, I can tell you why they're so upset and what they're doing. I have some very good theories about that. I think they're really good.
Well, a lot of people subscribe to the
That's,
Stone Tape
I
theory,
also have good theories. I have theories about how dragons reproduce too. But that doesn't mean they're dragons.
Right.
Mhm.
I actually personally do believe in ghosts, but I can't prove that they exist yet.
That's why
Yeah.
it's a belief. Then that's fine. That's totally fine. And some people have had experiences they can't explain. So, and I certainly don't debunk their experience necessarily. I mean, not agree
Yeah, I mean, I
ghost, but I
when I
don't
say that,
debunk their experience.
I don't either. I just haven't had it.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
that's understandable.
Mhm.
Well, one problem is some people actually do lie and claim they've had experience when they don't. I'm not saying like, oh,
Well, there are whole television shows based on that.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
Ghost hunters and all of that stuff. That's all baloney. I mean, that's just total baloney.
I'll tell you, who has a good baloney one is Eli Roth.
Mm.
Has a good sort of haunted series that he did. I forget what the name of it was. It was a podcast and there's a video dimension to it. It's great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
during the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but I do believe that my baloney has a first name. It's Oscar.
Yes, absolutely. And its
So
memory
that's what
is
you call it.
impregnated in the walls of stone.
In the
And
malls of latex.
on YouTube if you want to look up the commercials.
I knew somebody who had a ghost encounter. Her name was Kathy Ann Sains, my mother. She was 19 at the time. Her uncle my great uncle, had passed away, and they had a very close relationship. And she was laying in bed with her husband, father, and she woke up for no reason, and there he was standing at the foot of her bed, and he was just standing there. She said, "What's wrong?" He was dead by this time. He was buried, and he wouldn't answer her. So she got up out of bed. This was like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and she called her dad, my grandfather, Ray Schaefer, and she said, "Dad, I saw your brother. I saw, and he said, "What do you mean?" I saw him. He was standing by my bed. And so at first light, they went to the cemetery. And my grandfather, who was in charge of his will and stuff like that, said, dig him up. Because he felt like, okay, there's something going on here that you're seeing him. You'd see him. And here, he was only buried 3 feet. They dug the other 3 feet, buried 6 feet. She never saw him again. So that's the story I was told by my mom.
I've heard experiences like that stated before, where people just wake up in the middle of the night, or they've had something that they think is a visitation of some kind. I've definitely heard that story before.
What I have to wonder, and I'm not. This is going to sound like I'm poo-pooing that experience, and I'm not. And at the same time, when you look at ghost behavior, boy, they love staring at sleeping people. But it's not all ghosts. There's another ghost experience, and I'm being straight here. I really am. That I think would be great to hear about, and that is that the remote is never in the same place I leave it at night. It's always across the room, and it's always on ESPN. Because whoever the deceased person was loved sports, and that some of them just like watching people sleep, and that's what they did in life. But then there are others. Now, obviously, this figure Joel was trying to send a message, and I get that. But then there are others who just like kind of watching people sleep,
just show up,
which is kind of
a lot
odd.
Yeah, a lot of ghosts tend to be real dicks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they're watching your sleep. They move your remote. They bring in cold weather where you need a sweater.
Yeah.
Um, they're in your library.
In
Um,
Germany,
Then
in
there's the
Germany, do they
absolute
go and
worst.
stand by the toilet?
I'll watch you take it. Yeah. The absolute worst, though, has to be Amityville on the Moon. That's the absolute worst kind of
I
spiritual.
really need to see that.
Now, one problem also, like, I was actually going to ask Joel this, but obviously his story didn't turn into that, or end up being that. But a lot of people might also see ghosts, or they think they see ghosts when they have what they call sleep paralysis. But a lot of times those are actually
Oh, I can tell you everything you want to know about that. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
can I.
Sure.
It's
Uh,
called a hypotaphic illusion.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the way
People see some weird stuff. Yeah, some people see demons, some people see shadow people, which is like a spirit, but
no, when she told me this story, I was like 7 years old,
Yeah.
and she had said, "No, I was awake. I know what I was looking at."
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
I kind of figured. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I kind of figured, it wasn't sleep paralysis when you said she like woke up because obviously sleep paralysis you
But she
are
also
stuck.
got up and called, used the phone and so on. So,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
whole other thing. And that's tied in sometimes with narcolepsy and apnea is a weird kind of triangle of
Hmm.
stuff.
I do think sometimes there are people who have encounters with people who they're close to, and he, for whatever reason, he came to her, and why they buried him only 3 feet, who no one fucking knows.
Yeah, that is really weird.
So, but this movie was really, really good. The lighting, the set design, very good. The creepy, the outside shooting. I love how this movie starts. The woman driving, because I first thought this woman herself was a ghost because there weren't people addressing her right away. Wait, is
Yeah.
this girl a ghost? But no.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, most ghosts don't drive cars.
Yeah. And that was an interesting opening scene too, because that sort of establishes the idea of paranoia.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
two
Gordon,
trucks kind of moving in on her, and she's like paralyzed with fear
yeah,
temporarily. Um,
yeah,
so
it's sort of foreshadowing a little bit.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Um,
very interesting.
Now, Gordon, the issue with that about ghosts not driving cars is simply a call for insurance reform.
It's true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually,
if they weren't prejudiced against by the insurance industry, by God, they could get a driver's license.
Hmm.
I'll tell you, I since you asked, and I don't think this is tangential. I think this is on the subject. I think, vis-a-vis ghosts. I I really started to think pretty heavily about, and I'm not making the haha here, about ghost phenomena and ghost behavior. And there's that idea that they don't know that they're dead, and that they have not quote unquote crossed over.
hmm
And I really gave that some thought, and I thought about how ghosts behave. The rattling of chains and the oh gosh, or the poltergeist activity and
yeah,
stuff like that, usually involving moving objects around and smashing them and so on and so forth. So I thought, imagine that you don't know that you've died, and you wake up, and there are a bunch of other people living in your home and going through your stuff, and when you try and talk to them, they don't pay attention to you. You try and reason with them. You try to reach them, and by the time you're at a place where you're making enough volume to be heard, it sounds like it
yep,
sounds like the classic ghost sound. Or all you have is this chain, you're going to rattle it, they seem to hear that. Or you can get into the wiring or something, it's like the TV show Ghosts. And affect that. And how maddening it would be to see this kind of phenomenon and be treated like you're in the midst of a massive practical joke. where they're just not what that would do to you. And that when I came up with that, it made a lot of sense. And it also, I started to think about battlefields, where people get killed so suddenly, or a bullet from behind or something like that, where they have no idea. Or insane asylums where they're not really aware of things, prisons, things, areas where people have died, and it could be very likely that they didn't know, even have a split second of recognition of what was going on. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's that series Ghost Whisperer is based entirely on that theory. That these people, she's
Is
trying
it?
to
I
help
never
people.
saw it.
Yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt plays this. She can see and talk to the spirits, and they're all in transition and don't have a way of getting there because they haven't fully accepted the fact that they're dead. And or they have
Okay.
something else
I
they
thought they
need
just
to
didn't have a
do
hormone
before they
pills.
can go. She keeps telling them to go to the light, but she helps them do the thing that they need to do.
The old
Yep.
unfinished business.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them have, like you said, sudden death. They
There
have no
is no
idea
Victor
that they're
French.
even dead. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
That theory
There's
is
no Victor
really
French to help you now.
no. This another layer of this particular television show is the nostalgia I feel for it because it's got the same production values of the Doctor Who of the same era, the same videotape
Good.
feel,
Mhm.
that
That's pretty cool.
videotape
Well,
feel, and
well,
of course it's completely British, and that's fun.
well, funny you should say that.
Yes.
Because there actually are two Doctor Who connections.
Yeah.
It was produced by a man named Innes Lloyd, who basically he did Doctor Who in the mid '60s, and he kind of, um, his period, he kind of took it from being this goofy kid show, action adventure, space thing to, the hallmarks of his era were they're always kind of a scientific menace,
Right.
So, um, something like, lizard men from Mars invading while the ice caps are melting, or an extraterrestrial intelligence in a Tibetan monk in a Tibetan monastery. But
Mhm.
he also did what's known as base under siege, where you've got a team of people, you've got a threat either external coming in or internal that's threatening them, and
Right.
you do a limited amount of sets, and it's basically this is a base under siege story. It's like a really compressed Dark Shadows episode.
Yeah. Well, and another vaguely Quatermassian thing, which is Prince of Darkness,
Mm-hmm.
written by quote unquote Martin Quatermass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the pen name that John Carpenter used, and it's the base under siege story. It's exactly what you described.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the other connection is um the chubby bald guy with the thinning hair is an actor named Ian Cuthbertson,
Yes.
who in about five or six about 6 or 7 years after this will star in a Tom Baker story called The Rebos Operation, which you can watch on Tubi.
Cool. Cool.
And it's ironic too because Nigel Neal hated Doctor Who.
Yeah.
He thought it completely ripped him off, that it basically, but then again, Nigel Neal was kind of a paranoid, grumpy dude in general. So,
That makes
Now,
sense.
Gordon, you're Anglophile, a good reader, and so on and so forth. Have you read anything by Dennis Wheatley?
no, but I've been meaning to, especially because I hear the novel The Devil Rides Out is just as good as the movie The Devil Rides Out.
Yeah, yeah, and Wheatley was the big guy, I guess, around this time and shortly before when it came to English horror, and dealing with demons and ghosts and so on and so forth. As far as I know, cultists, a lot of
Yeah, well, you
cultists.
you had kind of a couple of layers of like, um, on the horror side, you had a lot of Victorians like M.R. James, Algernon Blackwood, and a bunch of names that I can't remember. Um, if you ever want a really good, well, as a side note, if you ever want a really good encapsulation of horror, Mark Gatiss, who's a British writer, did about
Sure.
10 years ago
Oh,
did a
yeah,
three did a 3 episode documentary on the BBC called The History of Horror. You can
it's
find it via
great.
YouTube, but you've got
Yeah.
that. You've got the kind of um, unusual happening in the everyday, which is you can see the line from uh, H.G. Wells to John Wyndham to here. So I think, and I think and I know with Neil, part of, I think this is here's your very quick and history dirty of how all this how Neil how all this happened. BBC starts in the 1930s. They start experimenting with television, except this thing called World War II interrupted them. So late 40s, early 50s, after they're doing all these plays, they're like, hey, look, we need to do more than just plays because it's like, so they realize, okay, we're going to start doing serials and series because you can take same sets, you can amortize them over time. So you're not spending you're spending money on one set, but you can, budget
Defray
it
the
out.
cost over several episodes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We use it over a score of shows too.
Yeah.
And the BBC was trying to figure out, okay, what kind of new adult series can we do to get people to
Uh,
watch? And it was science fiction. Because what would later happen is after the Quatermass serials are thinking, okay, we've got this weird little chunk of time at like 5 o'clock on Saturdays between, you know, the other people are gonna like want to see sports results. The teenagers are gonna want to see the pop music show because that's so what do we do? Well, they figured out, and there's actual paperwork behind this. And you can actually find an archive of paperwork because I know that's something that Joel loves to do is look up past paperwork. And that is they thought of doing it like a science fiction-y time travel series. They also hired a guy named Sidney Newman who created a show, you might have heard of it, called The Avengers. And so he kind of said, "Hey, let's put all this together," and that's how you got Doctor Who. So that's your history lesson for today, folks. And let it never be said that as much as I have tried to find evidence, there's no evidence that Philip Hinchcliffe ever saw an episode of Dark Shadows in the 70s.
Hmm.
And that's a personal theory I have that we'll do in another episode because
Yeah, I can see where science fiction or a series like The Avengers would be a great lead in for Ready, Steady, Go or
Mhm.
the old Great Whistle Test or one of those kind of shows on a Saturday. That would make sense because then you start to get a bleed over audience. The young
Mhm.
people want to see the science fiction stuff too, so they just keep on watching.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Uh, what's some of you guys' favorite scenes in this movie?
the alien at the very beginning, the
Oh,
wacky music
Yeah,
that they have at the very beginning is a lot of fun.
yeah, it is. And that whole scene is meant to be sort of paranoia and disorientation and all sorts of stuff. You don't know what's possibly going on here. Except this woman is in terror for her life because two tractor trailers are trying to crush her. Um, so yeah, it's a great lead in. It's fabulous lead in.
oh, that's
That's
true.
what
And
happens
actually,
when you truck with the supernatural.
Yeah.
oh yeah, and I know this sounds like a diss, but I swear it's not. The end credits, like how the visuals on it are pretty good too.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's reminiscent. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this was made essentially like the made-for-TV movies that that the networks did in the
Right.
1970s.
ABC
And
movie of the week or whatever one of those things, or NBC that made original movies. Yeah, on like every Wednesday night or
They
whatever.
weren't made for TV movies. They were network television event.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
okay,
Probably a term coined by Dan Curtis or
I
somebody.
get yes.
yeah, call it this or I'll whack you with my golf club.
Hey, come on! Don't call this a TV movie. That's not prestigious enough.
It's an event. It's a
Network
television
television
event.
event. Just like you don't call Dark Shadows a soap opera, right? Now it's daytime.
Yeah, I didn't let some Canadian theatrical actor push me around. I'm not going to let some wussy
I
network
fired
executive
him.
push me around.
I fired him until I
Get
realized
convicts.
his contract wasn't up until the 13 weeks. So then I kept him on until then, and then the show was done. So.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the difference between Dan Curtis and Gene Roddenberry. Roddenberry is able to hold Martin Landau over Nimoy's head, and that's a pretty
Yeah.
good actor to have. Come in and clean up your quitting.
Yeah.
Dan Curtis and Bert Convy.
Yeah, that's right. He had Bert Convy over his head, or perhaps Edward Everett Horton, as he was described in one article.
Peter Marshall said that he knew only two truly evil people in Hollywood, and he said one of them was Dan Rowan,
Yeah.
the other was Bert Convy.
Oh, no kidding.
But he wouldn't say why. Yeah.
Probably didn't like careerists, and they were probably.
I asked Catherine about it because I thought that's her era. She might know. She
Right.
didn't.
No.
She said, I don't know. She was curious about it though.
Well, I know there's actually a YouTube channel called, I think it's like Weird Hollywood History. I know with Peter Marshall, it was a time where I think he had helped Dan Rowan kind of get to where he's one of the people who introduced him to Dick Martin, and Rowan basically just said, "Yeah, screw you."
Yeah,
Which
just
makes
didn't have
sense.
anything more to do with him after that, because I know that Rowan and Martin were actually a nightclub act before they got their big break on television. Maybe Peter Marshall had something to do with that. Introduced them to what's his name, the producer there.
Yeah. And I've not heard too many details about Bert Convy, but I from what I gather, he kind of burned Marshall on a business deal.
Okay.
Hey. So wow, okay, well this is good. There's good background on this stuff.
Stuff there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Convy had to pay for all those permanents somehow. Once his hair
Hair.
went turbo.
Could you imagine Bert Convy as Barnabas with that weird kind of puffy head?
Yeah, he
I was
didn't have
thinking
it
the
back
same
then.
thing.
But yeah, turbo hair.
One of my favorite scene in this is when the guy's running down the hall. He's scared for his life. Shit. He's going trying to find other people. He's like bleeding a little bit because that's the thing. They do a really good job not like having a bunch of blood. There's very little.
No, it's all terror. It's not horror. It's terror.
Yeah, it's just pure terror, and the actors do a really great job of selling their ass off.
Yeah, I thought that Jane Asher, of course, I'm obsessed with her, but that she did a great job when she had that, she dropped to the floor and she was like having some kind of a, fit, epileptic fit or something. She really, and then that was weird looking. It was like, holy shit.
I have a question. I wonder, how long did this take to film?
Yeah, let's do a little.
I get the idea.
I suspect it didn't take long because it was television. I suspect they wouldn't have.
Yeah, and I imagine these people were all extremely disciplined.
Yeah,
I think I'm looking it up right now. I would assume that I know with Doctor Who at this point, they actually moved from doing a half hour per week to 2 episodes a fortnight. So they would have 2 weeks to rehearse, do your exteriors, and then you had 2 studio days to record. So something like this, I'll double check. I would assume maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
If even that.
That's a pretty lavish shoot.
That's
more time than I thought.
Yeah, that's reasonably long for this kind of a videotaped movie. Yeah, it's not too bad. But yeah, I mean, the thing is peopled with a lot of veteran actors. You're right, Patrick. I think they were pretty disciplined to whatever schedule they were, and expectant of whatever schedule they were given.
Okay, well, let's see. Looking at Wikipedia, recording of the stone tape began on 15 November 1972 with the exterior scenes. Moved to BBC Television Center between 20th of November and 22 November. And a remount was required on December 4th, and it aired on the 25th of December. So roughly, um, let's say 3 week, yeah, roughly about 2, 3 weeks to actually record. And by rehearse, they would go to a separate place to do all the plotting out.
Sure.
They would
Earmarks.
basically it'd be blocking, except instead of using actual like dark shadows, they would block on set. They would go, okay, well the camera goes here, you're going to be over there. Here's the thing, you do
Yeah, it's
that.
rehearsal hall. Yeah,
Mhm.
rehearsal hall.
I think they might have blocked Dark Shadows initially in the rehearsal
They
hall
did. They did a
and then
rough
moved it
block
over because
out.
they're busy setting lights.
Yeah, they went downstairs to solidify the blocking, but it was at
Yeah.
least as much for the cameras as it was for the actors
Mhm.
because those huge cameras had to move around each other. And they had to figure out which camera was going where between scenes and not to trip over the cables, blah, blah, blah. There was a lot of that going on. So, yeah. Yeah, they did. They had rehearsal hall. That was usually in the morning, I think,
Mhm.
pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Scale 1 to 10 when you guys go to Smith.
What was it?
Say
One
again?
to, scale 1 to 10. What do you give the movie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the great thing is you can find at least one or two versions on YouTube
yeah.
because I don't know if it was ever formally released in the United States, but between YouTube and the Internet Archive, there's a lot of stuff that maybe isn't on physical media that theoretically you could find.
Yeah, the one I found on YouTube was pretty. I mean, it was pretty close to HD. I mean, it was in pretty good definition. It was
Hmm.
nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gordon, there was Charles Edward Pogue, who was a good writer, did a Sherlock Holmes TV movie in the late 80s. And I've always wanted to try and find, I think it was a Sherlock Holmes TV movie.
Mhm.
I remember Pogue wrote it, and I've always wanted to find that again. And maybe Internet Archive is my answer if I can just find the bloody title of the thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you remember who was in it?
No, but I just remember it was good. And maybe I dreamt it, but I don't think I did.
What was the era again?
1988, 89,
Wouldn't have been Crucifer Blood.
maybe early 90s.
Wouldn't have been Crucifer Blood,
Pardon?
which was
Well,
Crucifer
well,
Blood, which would have been a play first and then was filmed
No, no,
later.
no, 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 no. That was Fraser Heston, and that was
Yes,
early 90s.
yeah, that was
I was
Hess.
still in high school.
Okay.
okay. Patrick, what was the writer's name?
Pogue, Pogue, I believe, Charles Edward.
Okay, he wrote a 1983 version of The Sign of Four.
Yeah, this would have been something around 89. Maybe it wasn't a Holmes thing, but it was definitely for television. So anything he wrote around 89, 90.
Okay, let's look.
So I think it's something people would enjoy. I just want to find out what it was so I can
Let's
watch it.
Yeah.
see. Um he had written 1990, The Hands of a Murderer.
That was probably it.
Um,
Was it
okay, you know
a
what,
hot description?
Patrick, you are dead right. Hands of a Murderer is a 1990 British made-for-television mystery film directed by Stuart Orme, starring Edward Woodward as Sherlock Holmes and John Hillerman as John H. Watson.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There you go. Hands of a Murderer.
I wonder if that's on Internet Archive.
Now we got to find it, right? And it's
Because I got a
1990 or
movie coming up.
89.
But hmm, better yet, Patrick, it is on Tubi.
Oh, holy shit. Well,
See-
I
see,
vote for
friend-
that for our next movie.
Yeah, there you go, Tubi.
Yeah. See, friends, for those of you watching, this is the power of Resident of Collinwood. You get education, you get laughs, you get comedy, you get
It's a
you get insight into professional wrestling, and maybe I think next time after we do Hands of a Murderer, what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to install Windows 11 on unsupported hardware because that's who we are. That we care about you,
Yeah.
all of you, especially certain person You know who I'm talking about? Yeah, you. You know what? Yeah. We got a thing.
Jim Pearson.
Hmm. Yeah.
Still have Windows 5 or something?
I give this movie a solid 9.5. I mean, it's really,
Give it a
really
9.
good. It's really entertaining.
Yeah.
And the scares are just terrific. I mean,
Mhm.
you could really tell where John got his inspiration from. Prince of Darkness with this. I mean, it's right. It's so good.
Yep. I like the performances. I give it a 9. Absolutely.
Is there anything you guys want to add before we go?
No, it was a cool movie. Thank you for bringing it
It
to us.
was. Absolutely. It's great.
Link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page and website is going to be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Day Book of Bound is going to be in the description box. Link to Alan Glenn's YouTube channel, Collins Port After Dark, will be in the description box. Link to Daniel Culver's YouTube channel, Magic Dove, will be in the description box. You folks have a safe night, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Live wisely.
Good night.